Back to Library Choice YouTube channel. In today's class we'll be learning how to make this beautiful ruffle gathered sleeve. Okay, it's a very trendy sleeve and it's really simple to make. If this is what you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. This sleeve, you need your basic sleeve pattern like this. I already have a tutorial on how you can draft a basic sleeve pattern on the channel, so if you don't know how to draft it, you may want to check that out. Okay, so after having your basic sleeve like this, you determine the interval you want between each of your spread. For me, the total length of my sleeve is around 10 inches. Okay, so the interval that I want to use for my slash line is around 2 inches. So I'll take my tape rule and then I'm going to note 2 inches interval like this. Okay, you can have as many slash lines as possible. It's entirely dependent on you. Okay, so this is a half scale sleeve. This is not a full sleeve. I'll be drafting this on a half scale, so when I'm cutting on my fabric, I'll put this side on fold to cut the full scale together. So now I have my 2 inches marked. On the armhole area also, I'm going to be marking around 2 inches for the interval for my flash. Okay, so from here now I'm going to mark 2 inches. Here I'm going to mark 2 inches, and then I'm going to continue till I have 4. Remember, I have 4 here, so I need 4 here also to make my slash line. So once I have that, I'm going to be ruling it in a diagonal line from 2 inches mark here to the one on the armhole area. So I'm going to be having something like this. I hope this is visible. So I have 4 lines now and I'm going to label it. Okay, so the former marker I was using was fading, so I think this is better. So now I've labeled it 1 2 3 4 because once I cut it completely, it may be confusing for you. So for the last part, I'm just going to take my curved ruler and then connect it from this end point up to my end points on my armhole area in a cuffy area, because this is the kind of effect that I want at the hem line of this sleeve. If you don't want the cuffy effect, you can leave it straight. Okay, so now using my marker, I'm going to connect it like this, and then all my slash lines have now been done. The next thing for me now is to cut out these lines, and spreading it will be easy for me because I already labeled them. So I'm going to be cutting them out one after the other like this. So remember I said I want it curved, so this first part that I'm cutting is not part of my sleeve. I'm going to be doing away with it. Okay, so this is what I need for my sleeve. This is the first line I'm going to cut, second, third, fourth and fifth. I hope we get that. So now I'm going to be cutting it out. So now that I have my sleeves now, the next thing is for me to, you can also knot here to be the center. Remember, this is our center front. Okay, before we cut it out, it was like this. So this side here is our center front, so that you don't get confused when you are placing it. So now the next thing for me now is to put my fabric on fold and then start to slash this, to spread this. Okay, so now the space that you have between each interval depends on how full you want it to be. For me, I'll be doing like maybe 3 to 4 inches space interval. So I just put my tape rule here. If I want 4 inches, I'm going to shift it to have 4 inches like this, and then I'll go over to the next one also and then I'm going to shift it like this to have 4 inches, depending on the amount of fabric you have to work with and the spread, how puffy you want it to be, because the puffiness depends on how much you spread it. So the next thing is just for me to put my fabric on fold on this side. Remember, I just cut a half sleeve, so I need to put this on fold before I cut it on my fabric. So I put my fabric on fold here on the center front, and I went ahead to start placing my pattern for 4 inches apart, just like I showed us. You can see it is 4 inches apart from one to the other. I'm using 4 inches because I just have about 5 or 4 slash lines. If you have more slash lines, you can reduce it to 3, and you can even increase it if you want more fullness. Like I said, the spaces you put in between depends on your fullness. Okay, so it is important for you to put this on fold. Remember, I'm using half scale. You can also use a full bodice, but I like to draft my sleeves on half scale like that, so that I can be sure that I have the same thing on both sides of my sleeve. Okay, so when I place the last one, which is number 1, and labeling is also important so that you know how they follow each other, I just increased the cap's height by 2 inches, and then I blended it like this. So I added half inch allowance throughout, and then using my chalk, I just traced it to form a line that is even like this. So once I'm through with this, I can easily cut it out. And I also added half inch allowance on the arm. But before I cut it out, you need to note that these spaces that we have here is going to be pleated or gathered depending on what you choose. So when you cut it out, you need to notch from one point to the other, so that by the time you are sewing it, it will guide you on where you want to pleat, so that you will not do something that will be too small for your armhole. So I'll be cutting this out now using my scissors, and I used a satin fabric for this. You can use any fabric of your choice. In fact, you can use scuba for a fuller effect. You know, scuba is thicker, but this satin will be fine for me, and that is what I'm using. So now I've cut this out, and then the next thing I'm going to do now is to start notching the points together before I remove it. So this way I've notched, so I know that when I'm sewing from here to here is one notch point. Then I'll go over to this also. I'll notch from here to the next notch point here. So that is how you keep notching it. So these notches are what is going to guide you when you are sewing, so that you will not sew too much. Okay. So now I've notched it, and I can remove my pins to bring out my pattern. This is what your sleeve will look like when you open it up. So now to pleat it, you can decide to pleat from one pleat here to the next. You move to the next pleat, you pleat it. You move to the next one, you pleat it like this. But for me, I'll be gathering it. So I want to be gathering it evenly. So once I gather it, I'll just keep checking with my tape rule, so that I will be sure that I have my exact armhole measurement. So this is the center front. You can note the center part here on the cap side here. So to do this, you can simply put it on fold, and then you note where the center is, and then you notch it. Okay, so you can pleat from here to here, and then on the other side you pleat from here to here. So if you be pleating it, all you just need to do is, let me bring this down a bit, from one notch point to the other, you pleat it like this, and then you move to the next notch point, you also pleat it, then you move to the next one, you also pleat it. So this is going to give you your armhole measurements when you finish. Then you move to the next one and pleat like this till you get to the upper part here. Okay, and then you do the same thing for the other side. But for me, I'll be gathering, I'll just be running some gathers around here, and then I'll check with my tape rule to get my armhole measurement. But before you do that, you need to hem this your hem line to have something neat, because I'm not using a scuba fabric. So this fabric I'm working with actually froze, so you need to knit this area before you start pleating it. So now I take this to the machine now and do this, so that we'll see what we'll have. Okay, so I've gone ahead to hem the hemline. You can see that the hemline is looking really neat now. I hemmed it, then after that I ran a gather stitch round this. So the armhole that I'm working with is actually 16 inches, and when I was sewing it, I will make sure that I was checking to see that I don't go past the 16 inches that I'm working with. You can see that my armhole is still intact. So this is what you will sew to your armhole, and this is what the sleeves looks like on the inside. Okay, so now I'm going to take this to the mannequin now, so that we will see what it looks like. You can see how lovely our sleeve looks like on our mannequin now. So this is it on the caps area, and it is very, very, very nice. So you can try this with whatever. Like I said, you can use scuba will even give it more puffiness because it's as foam. So I used satin for this, and it came out really lovely. I really like the outcome. So I just used my hand to arrange the pleats like this. So you can just tack it a bit if it's not standing well, depending on the type of fabric you use. So I just used the hand to form the pleats that I want like this, and you can leave it even without the pleats. Your gathers will still be there. So give this a try and let's see what you come up with. Let us know in the comment section if this tutorial has been helpful. See you in the next one. Bye.